No surprise here. Kansas City with the shortest odds to win the 2022 Super Bowl, just ahead of defending champ Tampa Bay at plus 650. After that, you have Buffalo at 12-1, and then LA, Green Bay, and San Francisco all at 14-1. Harry Douglas and Marcus Spears rounding out the show with Max Kellerman here. So, Max, what dark horse team do you see out there who could win the Super Bowl?
Ready for this?
Ready.
Guys, I'm going to take a real dark horse team, like a team no one is taking to win the Super Bowl. You want a dark horse? Try the New England Patriots. Try the Patriots on for size.
Oh.
Take a team.
Not bad.
Take a team with a head coach and GM with something to prove in Bill Belichick and GOAT with something to prove. Tom Brady just won a Super Bowl. You think he's going to be ready? Take a team that last year came 2 plays away. Bobby Wagner made a goal line stand. He made a play on the goal line on Jameis. Jameis got stripped against Buffalo. 2 plays away from a 9-7 record in a year where they had a brand new quarterback, opposite of the kind of quarterback they used to have. A guy who was coming off a catastrophic injury and hadn't played in a year. A guy playing for a team whose defense lost 9 guys to defections because of COVID before the season started, whose practice facilities got shut down because of COVID, who had no time to practice. Bill Belichick couldn't prepare, right? And Jameis couldn't learn because no preseason, no practice. And then Jameis Winston got COVID. Now they still 2 plays away from 9-7. Now look at it. Oh, sorry, I said Jameis Winston. We were just talking about Jameis.
I got you back.
Cam Newton. Cam Newton had no. Excuse me. Cam, of course, the former MVP Cam, who's been to a Super Bowl Cam, who before he got hurt was having the best passing season of his career with North Turner as his OC Cam, who's now, they didn't have tight ends last year. Bill Belichick's whole offense is predicated on tight ends. They went out and got Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry. They got how many guys did they sign? Wideouts, tight ends. The defense is back. The Patriots are a true dark horse.
Marcus?
Max, that's a great choice. I went back and forth with it, and I just don't see Buffalo running away with that division either. But I'm going with the Chargers. And Max, you like this because you're a Herbert fan. And when you look at the Chargers roster, and when you think about what they did this offseason, and bringing in Chris Harris is going to be huge for this secondary. When you think about Derwin James coming back, hopefully healthy. Derwin James will be a top safety in this league if he can stay healthy. He's that good. He's been mentioned in the same breath with the ability of Jalen Ramsey. We know Joey Bosa was injured last year. Jared Tillery, a defensive lineman who doesn't get a lot of press right now, but can absolutely rush the passer. Brandon Staley coming in, new head coach, leaving the Rams, understanding how to get that defense going. And from an offensive standpoint, they lost Austin Eckler, who I thought was a huge loss, and people don't think about it in that regard because we were so enamored with the way Justin Herbert performed last year. But that run game was serious. They drafted Rashawn Slater. Keenan Allen, very underrated. Watch out for the Chargers, man. I'm telling y'all, watch out.
Now, I have to say, both of those picks that you guys named, both of those are great picks, but I'm going to have to go with the Tennessee Titans. Not just what they did in free agency, but what they did with the coaching staff. Last year, they did not have a defensive coordinator. It showed out there on the field. Last year, their secondary wasn't that good. What did they do? They went and got Janoris Jackrabbit Jenkins. They drafted Caleb Farley. They brought in Elijah Molden as well. Not to mention now, you see the offense. You better bring your big boy pads when you come to play the Tennessee Titans. Because with Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown, Julio Jones, not to mention you getting Taylor Warner back at left tackle, who's a Pro Bowl tackle, you better be ready to bring your big boy pads. I'll say this, you better bring your hard hat and your lunch pail because whoever they're playing, they're going to physically impose their will offensively and defensively. The only knock on the Titans that I have is that they got to get the field goal kicking thing right.
Okay, all very, very good choices. We'll see which one ends up being the real dark horse. Okay, let's keep it moving because Nick Saban's prints have always been all over the NFL. But heading into this season, there are 3 prominent former Alabama quarterbacks who are all making news. Jalen Hurts, who looks to take over the starting job in Philly with Wentz no longer there. Rookie Mac Jones, he's impressing in New England, giving Cam Newton all the competition he can handle. And then there's Tua Tagovailoa, who is entering his 2nd year after an up-and-down rookie season. So, guys, what do you say? Marcus, which former Alabama quarterback do you trust the most here?
It's all about makeup for me, and that's Jalen Hurts. And I know
I think it's a work in progress for sure. I mean, I think, relationships aren't formed in a matter of a couple of days. There's time where the respect grows and the communication follows. I think the greatest relationships that you have, with your friends and loved ones involve conversations that flow. You can not talk to a close friend for a few months and pick up right where you left off. We've had a couple conversations and been positive conversations.
All right, despite the offseason drama, that bad man with nothing but respect for his general manager as the NFL preseason officially gets underway today. Ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? Welcome into First Take. I'm Charlie Arnold, joined by Max Kellerman, Mr. Swagoo, Marcus Spears. Happy preseason, fellas. How you doing?
What's going on, Swagoo? You ready for this?
Really good. I'm ready. Them Cowboys playing tonight. I need to see some signs
Your
of getting
team.
better. So I'm hyped. Hall of
and
Fame
you know we're going to be
tonight,
talking about
baby.
the Cowboys, too. So we got to start with the Packers, though, because you just heard Aaron Rodgers. He's calling his relationship with Green Bay general manager Brian Gutekunst a, quote, work in progress. He also noted he's been in touch all offseason with his backup Jordan Love, and he is on good terms with head coach Matt LaFleur. So now that differences have seemingly been settled and set aside, Max, are the Packers the biggest threat to the BUCS in the NFC?
Oh, yeah, clearly. The Packers are the number one threat. First of all, they got to the NFC Championship game 2 years in a row. Secondly, the first year it was with Aaron Rodgers as game manager. Wait a minute, is he slipping? That's why they drafted Jordan Love in the first place, right? No, he's just getting used to a new system. And ran it to perfection, not just a game manager, obviously, last year, but an MVP, having one of the greatest regular seasons in the history of football and obviously, maybe, arguably, in his own amazing career. So that's one. They have Aaron Rodgers. You think Matt LaFleur's ever taking the ball out of his hands in a playoff situation like that again? That's never going to happen. He's obviously going to be committed to the Packers this year. Right, Sago, could you imagine? He's obviously going to be committed to the Packers this year because, if anything, he'll be more motivated than ever if you're looking for external motivation. So there's the Aaron Rodgers of it all. How's the rest of the offense? Do they have a really good running back? Check. Wideout, arguably the best in the game. Some people are making that argument. Top three? Check. He has skills position players. Does he have a defense? Well, look, the secondary's real good, right? The front seven ain't like setting the world on fire, but they're competent. They're middle of the pack, maybe plus. Like, that whole defense is a good defense. And when you look at the schedule, they're not going to be the underdogs till they play the Chiefs at Kansas City week 9. Yeah, the Packers are the biggest threat to the BUCS.
Yeah, I hear you, Max, and I feel you, and I understand where you're coming from, but it's the L.A. Rams. And it's the L.A. Rams, one, because it has to be, because of how much they've leveraged their future in order to get Matt Stafford. But it's also, I always felt like they were a quarterback away. Look, I didn't trust Jared Goff. I know a lot of people did. I'm not saying he's not talented. I just didn't trust Jared Goff to be that grimy quarterback that you needed to be in crunch time situations like I do with Matt Stafford. Yeah, I said it. Matt Stafford, who's been buried in Detroit for a number of years, and thank goodness for Calvin Johnson, one of the greatest wide receivers ever. We might not have ever known that Matthew Stafford just consistently throws for 4,000 yards and puts his team on his back, even though the roster and even though that franchise hadn't done enough to keep him surrounded with a good football team. Here's the other thing. Sean McVay. As much as we laud about Matt LaFleur and Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay is another guy that's supposed to be on that level from an offensive play calling mindset. And now you couple that with a quarterback. I love their offense. And let's not even look. I understand what the Green Bay Packers are, and Aaron Rodgers makes them that. It's a lot of turmoil that's been going on within that franchise, and I'm not convinced yet that it's not going to spill over into the season. I'm just not convinced. Maybe other people are, and it's a go by to get by. But the Rams right now with Aaron Donald and obviously Jalen Ramsey on the outside. And I know they lost pieces in John Johnson and Troy Hill, but I fully expect in a tough division, Matt Stafford to be the difference as far as the Rams and how much they push. The biggest threat to the BUCS are the Los Angeles Rams.
Rams are going to be very good. Stafford is an upgrade over Goff. They have, I mentioned.
No, I know they are, Max. That's why I just said all that I said.
I mentioned the Packers. I mentioned the Packers don't have a front seven that scares you, even if they're competent. The Rams have Aaron Donald. You mentioned the stars on defense. I get all that. And usually losing a running back wouldn't change the odds that much in my eyes. But Cam Akers was special second half of last season and looked to me like he was going to be a top 5-ish guy this year. And when you think of McVay, who's a great young head coach, already been to a Super Bowl, what did he do with Goff? It was Gurley plus Goff that made Goff look as good as he did that year. And Stafford needs less than Goff, that's true, because he is better. That's why you trade 2 firsts and a third and Goff for Stafford, and Goff was the number 1 overall pick. Mm-hmm. But let's not pretend like Akers with Stafford wasn't going to be key to that offense, setting up everything else, including they don't have any one receiver that, oh my God, that's the best receiver in football, but they got a whole receiving core and they can all, put in work. Marcus, without Cam Akers, none of that works quite as well. And they did not replace him. You mentioned guys they lost, but that was easily their biggest loss. And even if they did have Cam Akers, and then it would make it tougher for me, give me the team with Aaron Rodgers. But they don't have Cam Akers. So, yeah, hell yeah. Give me the team with Aaron Rodgers.
I got you. Give you the team with Aaron Rodgers and give me the team with Matt Stafford that's in a better situation, that hadn't had all of this turmoil going on in the offseason. Listen, man, like Max, you know this. You've been covering sports long enough. Let something go bad. Let a couple things go bad in Green Bay. You think this is over? Like you've been in the rap game before, Max. You watched the Locks and Dipset go at it last night. You know Aaron Rodgers is Jada Kiss of the Locks, but let Jada Kiss not get his checks, meaning that's Aaron Rodgers.
Who Styles P?
The context of that is exactly. Let that be a situation in Green Bay where we go backwards, right? Like everybody's great now. We talking about it's a work in progress, and people took the interview between Aaron and Gutekunst as something that they're working through. It's a go by to get by, Max. I'm telling you. I told you last week that they signed divorce papers. Let it go bad. I'm concerned. I know
what
a lot
makes
of
you
people
think it's going to go bad?
Wash this under the rug.
What makes you think it's going to go bad?
Max,
you think Rodgers is not going to be more motivated to be the best version of himself, if that's possible?
That has nothing to do with it. Aaron Rodgers got to be supported by a lot of guys around him. He has to be supported by the coaching staff as well. And Max, listen, I'm not worried about Aaron Rodgers playing at an elite level. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Aaron Rodgers playing at an elite level and they still potentially lose games. It's when it gets bad, because now the focus shifts back on, I don't have the guys here that I need. We don't have enough in order to win a championship. Listen, it may not, but what I'm telling you is I'm taking a team that didn't deal with that turmoil this offseason. I'm taking a team that made a significant upgrade at the quarterback spot and an offensive coordinator who's not going to take the ball out of his hands. I'm taking a team that went to the Super Bowl when we saw them with a really good football team. That's who I'm taking.
I'm just looking to see these Packers losses where it's going to go bad. At Saints, is that going to go bad? Lions at Green Bay, is that going to go bad? At Niners, I mean, that's a tough game, but actually, I don't know, I think I'd probably take the Packers there at this point. Steelers,
Max,
go to Lambeau. Where is it?
Don't do that.
At Bengals, at Bears with a rookie quarterback?
Don't do that. We don't know.
Washington's a tough game.
We don't know where it is. We don't know where it is. We know that this is the NFL, and things are eventually at some point you're going to hit a rocky road in your season. We know that. That's something that we can guarantee.
But here's the difference.
Unless you're the Chiefs. All right, the Chiefs seemingly, outside of the Super Bowl losing their entire offensive line, they don't have much go wrong during the season. But I get what you're saying. I understand why your brain is working like that. We just saw Aaron Rodgers come off of an MVP season. The year prior to that, people were ready to tell the man he wasn't good enough.
Well, he had a new coach.
I'm not saying it's not going to be Max, I'm not saying it's not going to work out. But what I am telling you is that situation in Green Bay is a lot more fragile than the situation in Los Angeles. I'm focused on the team that's been focused on football the entire offseason and leading into the season and listening to a head coach in Sean McVay tell everybody that this is the quarterback that changes our narrative here. And I get it about Cam Akers, but the one thing that Sean McVay ain't struggled with was creating and being able to come up with a run game. He's done that his entire time as the head coach in Los Angeles. I'm not mad at Henderson. I'm not mad at anything about what the Rams are doing.
Marcus,
by the way, Max, go ahead.
They're both good teams. They're both strong teams, even if you take the quarterback off the team. What it comes down to for me, and this is the great experiment with Matt Stafford. He's the quarterback under the most pressure in football this year, including everybody, because his whole legacy is on the line.
Well, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. But
how many playoff games has he won, right? Well, that's because he's in Detroit. Well, we're about to find out. And I think that Detroit hurt Stafford's legacy so far. But when push comes to shove between two relatively evenly matched teams, they're both strong. Give me the team with Aaron Rodgers. To me, as good as Stafford's been with fourth quarter comebacks, because they have to play from behind, I get it. Give me the team with Aaron Rodgers, who's done it in the playoffs consistently throughout his career.
Yeah.
That's the team that threatens the BUCS.
All right.
Perfect.
Well, we just
so convenient.
Got a little bit of a look at the schedule from Max here, but it's unfortunate because we're not going to get to see Green Bay play the BUCS in the regular season, but we will see Green Bay playing the Rams. That's in Week 12, so you know that the BUCS will be paying attention to that game. But let's keep it moving because what's that?
Marcus wants to get off.
I was just saying,
he wants to get off his last point. He thinks that will turn the tide.
We get a chance. We get a chance. I absolutely believe Matthew Stafford is turning the tide in Los Angeles. It's no doubt about it in my mind that that's what he's going to do. And been saying it.
That being because with all the free agency moves like acquiring 37-year-old Carmelo Anthony and 32-year-old Russell Westbrook, the average age on the team is about 33 years old. So LeBron tweeted, then deleted this. Quote, keep talking about my squad, our personnel ages, the way he plays, he stays injured, we're past our time in this league, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Do me one favor, please, and I mean please, keep that same narrative energy when it begins. That's all I ask. Hashtag thank you. Okay, so experience over age clearly is the mentality for the Lakers this year. Will LeBron and the Lakers win the title next year, Max?
No, they won't, because they have not done enough to pass the Nets. They've done enough to be a real challenge, not one of these fake challenges where if the Nets are healthy like last year, LA's healthy, the Nets are healthy, I think the Lakers are going to be. No, they weren't going to. No one was going to take a healthy Nets team 7 games. You saw what KD just with Kyrie, without James Harden last year, without Harden. League last year. Just KD and Kyrie were whooping up on the Bucks, who won the championship so bad early it was embarrassing. It was a mismatch. That without Harden, who is the glue guy, the guy who made it all work, who was running really D'Antoni's offense and all of that. Now, what's happened since then? If the Nets are healthy, they have, I want you to think about this carefully, Marcus Spears. They have, at their size, the 3 greatest all-around scorers. They can score from anywhere. Whoever lived at their size. You know, Harden's like 6'5". Yeah, I'm not saying he's better than Michael Jordan scoring the ball. I'm saying, show me anyone 6'2" who could score like Kyrie from anywhere. Free throw line, 3-point line, layup package with the handles, the whole thing. Same thing with Harden. Same thing with KD at 6'11". 3 greatest scorers from anywhere who ever lived at their size. Now, what else do they have? We saw Blake Griffin posterize Giannis last year in the playoffs. Why is that significant? Blake's value was never because of some refined skill. It's because he could do that, and he's your 4th option. And Joe Harris is your 5th option. Now you got Patty Mills off the bench. I'm sorry, the Lakers made a lot. That Westbrook trade was amazing for them. People who criticize it are out of their minds. Second half of the season, Lakers will take off. They don't have enough shooting to beat the Nets, period.
So outscoring the Lakers is how you're building the Nets winning the championship. That's what you're saying, because you mentioned those 3 guys. Listen, first of all, let me say this. I mad respect for KD, Kyrie, and James Harden and what the Nets have done. But are you seriously going to sit on television and tell me that when you get to a 7-game series with LeBron, AD, and Russell Westbrook, that you just chalking it up as it being that easy to beat them in the playoffs? We've seen LeBron do this a number of times, Max. We've seen him as an underdog, down 3-1, be able to understand the game enough and figure out how to beat a basketball team with uber talent or a team that's more talented than them. When you look at what the Lakers did, here's the best part of what the Lakers did. They removed Anthony Davis from the 5 by bringing in Dwight Howard. That's the move that changes everything for the Lakers. Last year we had this conversation, and barring health, but health is talked about with both of these teams. As long as they're healthy, you're gonna hear that 1,000 times from now until the basketball season and until we get to the finals. And Lord knows I'm praying that I hope both of them meet up in the finals. I understand all that you just said, but here's the thing about basketball. And you've talked about this a bunch, Max. Usually the best team wins. You're talking about 3 guys right now. And we're mentioning the big 3 guys. I want the team that's led by LeBron James. I don't care who playing on the other side. As long as the talent is not a big discrepancy, which I don't think it is, because we're still talking about AD as a top 5 player in his position of all time. We're still talking about Russell Westbrook, who's going to put pressure on Kyrie or James or whoever is guarding him to play both ends of the court. We're still talking about LeBron James. You bring Dwight Howard in to be a guy around the rim to protect the rim. I understand about Blake Griffin, but dude, the Lakers ain't gonna be worried about Blake Griffin in no damn final series. They gonna be interested in making sure that they take away 1 or 2 of these guys that you just mentioned as that front court 4-3. Now, let's get to the part about the game, like the actual end game and what type of adjustments will be made. Here's the deal, Max. When the Bucks were playing the Nets and when we were watching that game, we had Giannis who didn't want to go out and defend KD in crunch time situations. We understand that KD is the best scorer that we've ever seen in the NBA. But KD going to have to play both ends of the floor too.
He can.
And Kyrie Irving is going to have to play both ends of the floor.
He can
and James
too,
Harden is going to have to play both ends of the floor.
Not so much with Harden.
Listen, Max, do you think there will be any level of comfort on Kyrie Irving when he has
Let me
to
say
deal
this.
with Russell
I
Westbrook
think this is what I think, Marcus. I think the Lakers give them a real series. I think that before they acquired Westbrook, people were deluding themselves. Now that they have Westbrook, they have a legitimate answer to the Nets. They're the one team in the league, if everyone's healthy, that has a legitimate answer. I don't know if it's the right answer, but it is a legitimate answer. I think that's an extended series. It's going to be tough. Here's the difference. When you just brought up Dwight Howard, for example, Dwight Howard with AD, LeBron, and Westbrook, no one of anyone I just mentioned shoots the ball over average for their position. And at the 4, AD probably doesn't even shoot it average. If you call him a 5, he probably does. Dwight does only in the paint. LeBron's not a pure shooter. He shoots it well enough as a 3 or a 4. Westbrook doesn't shoot it well enough. And so you're starting Wayne Ellington, I guess, and that's your best shooter on the floor. There's not, they're going to be vicious to the rest of the league. But when you match up against the Nets team with Kyrie, Harden, Harris, Blake, and KD, of course they're not worried about Blake. If he's the number 1 or 2 option, he's your 4th option. Joe Harris is the best 5th option, 5th option, and he's always going to be open. Always. Because you're going to have to double guys. When you look at LeBron, and he came back down 3-1 against that super team Warriors team, once they added KD, they ran up the white flag in Cleveland. They had nothing they could do. I don't even blame them. It's just too much on one team. And when you look at that Warriors team...
it's not even close to this situation, Max.
He has, instead of Kevin Love, he has Westbrook as his number 3. That's a big thing. What I'm saying is, this Nets team, when healthy, has more offensive firepower than that Warriors team that LeBron didn't have a shot against.
And fortunately, you play defense in basketball too. And we always
that's why it'll be a good series.
We forget that you got to do that. Like a lot of people forget because we get enamored with talking about how well James, KD, and Kyrie are on the offensive side of the court. There's another side that pressure will be put on them. Max, them buckets ain't that easy with Dwight Howard standing in the paint. Them buckets ain't that easy. You still got to put in extra work on the defense. You have to put in extra work on the defensive end of the court as well. Listen, let me say this too. When we look at the Bucks and Nets, right? I'm going back. That's a terrible matchup for the Milwaukee Bucks. It's terrible because Giannis doesn't have a perimeter game. Giannis doesn't have a perimeter game. We know exactly what Giannis is going to do. I like Harden Tucker. I like Harden Tucker, especially with open looks. You talking
also
about
not a great shooter. I like him too. He's not a good shooter.
What you think the Lakers are going to do?
This is what I think the Lakers are going to do, Marcus. This is what I think they're going to do. And I tweeted it out as soon as they made the Westbrook trade. It was an amazing trade. They traded spare parts for Russell freaking Westbrook, who every year plays with new teammates on a new team, takes the first half of the season to figure it out. Everyone says he's over, he's no good anymore. Then by the second half of the season, they figure it out together, and he's an MVP caliber player. It's an amazing move. And I tweeted out when they made the move. They have a legitimate answer to Brooklyn. Brooklyn will shoot it better. The Lakers will defend it better. The Lakers have more athletes, like Russell Westbrook and LeBron James as athletes. That's tough to match up with. That's why it's going to be a series. But in terms of the way the parts fit together, you're going to have to score, if the Nets are healthy, 130-plus points a night to beat them. You ain't going to beat them with 115 points.
I just don't understand.
It's going to be the greatest offense in the history of American team sports.
Max, do you not believe? Let's have an honest conversation on television because people are watching us.
Yes.
Do you think that the Lakers will not be able to match points with the Brooklyn Nets?
Correct.
You believe that?
I believe it. Correct. Lakers will match points with a lot of teams.
That's absolutely false,
the Nets are
Max.
going to be tough.
That's absolutely false, bro. That's absolutely false. Because you still are not acknowledging the fact that you got to do it on both ends. The space. What you mean? The
Actually,
space
you know what,
Max,
Marcus? When you bring up
James
defense,
is still playing for the Lakers. Max,
here's another problem.
Max, LeBron's still playing for the Lakers.
I hear you. Here's another problem when you bring up the Lakers' defense. Because the Nets have more complete players on offense, right? The big three where it's concentrated can do everything. The fit is easier. So the problem with the Lakers is they recognized we need shooting around these guys, right? So they brought in shooters, but they gave up. In terms of guys who are going to get minutes, length, and a little defense. So they have their offense is concentrated in three guys who can also play defense but not shoot it really well. The shooters that they brought in, now it means they can't switch the same way. It's not that the Lakers won't be a devastating team by the second half of the season. They will be. But the fits are not as easy as in Brooklyn, who have also had a full year to play together and brought in Patty Mills off the bench.
We got to leave this conversation, guys. We know one thing. You talk about athletes on the Lakers. They have 5 players signed with at least 8 or more All-Star selections. That's the most of any team in history. So we'll see if that, whole...
He knows that. This team knows that. When we brought him here for one reason. It wasn't to, he's going to compete, but it wasn't for. He's going to come in here and lead this football team. I love Nick Foles. I mean, he plays for the Chicago Bears and haven't talked to him, but I think he's a great player. I think he's proven that. There's nothing about Nick Foles I don't like. I think he's a winner. He's certainly a guy that fits our kind of culture, but he plays for the Chicago Bears.
Well, we will see about that. But for now, let's speculate. Max, who do you think is a better fit at quarterback for the Colts? Is it Foles or is it Rivers?
It's Phillip Rivers. Now, let me say, I got to preface this by saying, Swagoo, I had Chris Mortensen on the Max Kellerman Show, ESPN Radio, 2 p.m. Eastern, yesterday, and he was adamant that they feel that the intelligence out of Indianapolis is they're confident that it'll be on the low end. They're optimistic, rather. It'll be on the low end of the timetable.
Good, that's great.
Both for Wentz and for Quentin Nelson, right? And that Phillip Rivers is committed to coaching the high school team, and that if it's just for a game or two early in the season, he's probably not going to come out of retirement because the timetable wouldn't be right anyway, and he probably wouldn't do it for that, okay? So that said, we're dealing with that. If the question is, unfortunately, like knock wood, this doesn't happen, but they're actually going to be out for a while, Wentz, and Quentin Nelson, the spectacular left guard for the Colts, then I would take Phillip Rivers over Nick Foles. And the reasons are pretty straightforward here. Phillip Rivers knows the situation in Indianapolis, especially you're missing your left tackle, you're missing your left guard for a while, especially when you need to make quick decisions. Give me the guy who already knows the offense. Give me the guy who's been there and successful. They had double-digit wins. Give me that guy in this situation, an Iron Man, by the way, who had a borderline Hall of Fame career, Phillip Rivers. And who clearly, the fact that he didn't rule it right out means clearly he's interested. It's not like they move on from Rivers because they feel like, well, he's no good. That's not the reason. Maybe you think you can get a guy with more upside at this stage in their career. Maybe he was about ready anyway. But if he's willing to come back into this situation, look, Marcus, the one thing about Nick Foles, and I'm a huge Nick Foles fan, like a huge Nick Foles fan, he needs a pocket. He needs a pocket like more than anyone. If he has a pocket to step into, he can be effective. But he was running for his life in Chicago, which is why it looked like he wasn't any good. And he'll be running for his life at the moment in Indianapolis. Give me Phillip Rivers.
So bringing in Phillip Rivers would just kind of recreate what you looking at last year, right? For a guy that's been out of football, coaching high school football, the dude that has not done any football activities is the best fit for you. That's you selling that on First Take right now.
Yeah,
okay,
right.
Nick Foles is the best fit. And it ain't about knowing the offense, because Nick Foles would know the offense too. And as much as people talk about Marcus Brady, we know damn well this Frank Reich's offense and his philosophy. It ain't no way that Carson Wentz is in Indianapolis first and foremost if it ain't for Frank Reich. And the last guy, coincidentally, the two guys that played above the level that we've seen them play at in the recent years was with Frank Reich, and that's Nick Foles and that's Carson Wentz. I get it from an emotional standpoint, what it would do to Carson's emotion. I'm not dealing in emotion. I'm one of the defense. I'm putting myself on this team. I'm putting myself in a situation where look, Max, to your point, we all know Phillip Rivers is a better quarterback than Nick Foles over the course of time. But Nick Foles was a Super Bowl MVP and had a phenomenal run under Frank Reich. And if you can get that, coincidentally, we may be on the long end, we may be talking 4 or 5 games before Carson Wentz gets back. I can't think of a better guy than the guy that showed you in 4 or 5 games that I could play at the level you need me to play in order for us to win a Super Bowl, let alone open up a season with a tough schedule, with a great understanding and a grasp of an offense, more athletic than Phillip Rivers. I don't care what anybody says. Nick Foles is more athletic than Phillip Rivers. So when you talk about a clean pocket, that's most quarterbacks. That's your guy that was supposed to fall off a cliff, Tom Brady. He need a clean pocket too. Every damn quarterback need a clean pocket. But I would much rather prefer one that can sidestep or move to the right or left a little bit better than the other one when they both have a grasp and one has been out of football for the last 7 months doing nothing outside of working out and coaching high school football. Y'all emotions are getting to y'all with this situation. So it's a no-brainer for me. Now,
let me get this straight.
If we talking a picture of go ahead. Yep.
Let me get this straight. You said you know that Phillip Rivers is a better quarterback than Nick Foles. You're also aware that he quarterbacked this team.
In totality.
He quarterbacked this team, Phillip Rivers did, to double-digit wins last season, right? So you're aware of those two things. You're also aware that they brought in Carson Wentz. You're also aware that the Wentz and Quentin Nelson injuries, it ain't going to go past 5. We're operating under the assumption it's not going to go past week 5 or 6 of the football season, right? Not even the halfway point. You're aware of all those things. You're also aware that they brought in Carson Wentz, and that clearly Coach has said this thing that I think has alluded to the thing that we're all thinking, like, Carson Wentz got to get his head on straight. You know, you got to build Carson Wentz back up. Emotionally, psychologically, mechanically, everything. He's got to be built back up. And what you want to do, as a placeholder early in the seasons to win you enough games just to keep you competitive so that Wentz can then take the ball as the best version of himself and take you there, is bring in the guy who basically, even though we want to say it, wrecked him in Philadelphia.
I mean, if not the whole season, you never know. I mean, they want to win. That is the ultimate prerogative. But I have known that the Colts have said, like, in 2 weeks they'll have a lot more information. So once we reach that mark, we can see what they're really thinking as far as Wentz's recovery is going.
Here's the thing, too, Charlie. Here's the thing, too. I hope it doesn't happen, but I couldn't imagine the stories of the Indianapolis Colts starting 0-4 and them decide not to make a move on a quarterback. And it's all going to go back to they didn't want to do this because it was going to hurt Carson Wentz's feelings. That's what it's going. That will be the story, and that'll be the narrative. Nick Foles is over there in Chicago third straight, and you had success with that guy. Man, listen, man, y'all play this emotional game. I'm thinking about the guy that has success and winning.
The first 5 games on their schedule, Seahawks, Rams, Titans, Dolphins, Ravens. Enough said. All right, something needs to happen. We need to make the smartest move they can. There. Okay, guys, let's keep it moving. Big Swagoo and Max are about to battle it out to determine the real America's team. Is it the team Stephen A. loves, the Steelers, or the one who makes him want to vomit, the Cowboys? Plus, former NFL wide receiver Harry Douglas played for both the Falcons and the Titans, so we're putting him on the spot. All that and more coming up on First Take.
It's a special football team that everyone's overlooking.
We ain't come to play, we don't run. I know QB. We gon' elevate, watch us elevate. Every bit of competition, we on a mission.
You know, it's too bad Stephen A. isn't here because the great debate continues. Who is America's team, the Steelers or the Cowboys? These two teams opening up the NFL preseason tonight in the Hall of Fame game in Canton, Ohio. And while neither Big Ben or Dak will see any snaps, both teams had such bizarre seasons last year that tonight should provide at least some insight into what we can expect.
It's a work in progress for sure.
Okay, with all that being said, Marcus, let's start with you here. Who is America's team? Is it the Steelers or is it the Cowboys? What do you say?
I mean, how ridiculous is this question? Like, seriously, how ridiculous is this? It's a lot of people that work very hard to get First Take put together, but this is a ridiculous question. We all know damn well who America's team is. And don't start with me about winning and Super Bowls and all of that, because all I want Max to do, if he ain't got the Cowboys as America's team, is to just go back and look at the damn tape from First Take in the last year and compare the number of times he even talked about the Cowboys as opposed to the Steelers. Okay? We asking a question about America's team. We are talking about an identifiable brand. We are talking about a team that stays on the mind and the lips of fans that hate them and fans that love them. We are talking about a team where you play quarterback for that team. Regardless of how you playing, you are the most marketable individual in the NFL, 9 times out of 10. We are talking about a team as well that will never lose the mantle of being America's team, because America is exactly what the Cowboys are. You love it, you hate it, but you pay attention to every damn thing that go on with them. Now, when we get on the field, there's no better time in the NFL than when the Cowboys are winning, because the conversations and the things that go on and transpire are at the highest it can be when it comes to NFL dialogue. And not to mention the money. Like, I don't even want to get into the fact that it's the most recognizable, also the most the wealthiest, and the one that's going to continue to ascend to that level, the highest level in which it can reach as far as being recognizable and making money. The Dallas Cowboys are America's team, and the haters are going to say they not, and at the same time, the haters are going to respond to something about the Dallas Cowboys.
Well, it's an interesting argument. Let me start by attacking your credibility here. Normally, given your professional experience, your college experience, when we talk about football, I'm at a disadvantage because Marcus, who's more credible than Marcus? In this case, however, that works against you, Marcus. I have a couple of questions. How many years did you play for the Dallas Cowboys?
8.
How many years did you play for the Pittsburgh Steelers?
0.
See, I could rest my case right there, but I'm not going to. This is clearly a biased opinion. Now, look, first of all, is America just about style? Certainly we have style. No question. America's sensational. But America's also about substance, Marcus. Substance. Now, when I was a kid, there were 2 out-of-market teams that you rooted for, one or the other, if your team was no good. And I was a little kid before the Giants drafted LT. All I knew, I heard the Steelers, right? You heard Cowboys too. Steelers, Cowboys. Steelers won the Super Bowl every year. So I was a Steelers fan because if you had a soul, you were a Steelers fan. If you were a sellout, you were a Cowboys fan. Nevertheless, I rooted for the Steelers. Now, the Steelers are one of the original 8 teams. The Steelers play in the Northeast and hang their hat on, at least by reputation, traditionally, defense. Even when Tomlin got the job, run the ball, stop the run. Steelers football. The Steelers are the team owned by the Rooneys, like the Rooney Rule, right? Great football family, great American family. And also instituted a rule to try to kind of fight against the prevailing tide in the NFL that wasn't fair and continues not to be, but tried to do something about it, named after Rooney, because he instituted it. The Steelers are the team that, change head coaches once every 50 years, right? That's the Steelers. The real America's team in this game, I think there's an even better answer overall for America's team. But in this game, the real America's team is the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Because of what you just said?
Naturally.
Max. Let's have truth moments all the time, bro. Like, you know me. You know me, and you know when you and I get on the phone in our personal time. Max, you know what the values and the foundation is that America is built on, and the Cowboys represent that, the good and the bad, Max. Like, let's not have a conversation about the Dallas Cowboys not being America's team. That's just something to drum up for people to talk about. Everybody, the Steelers fans, deep down inside, will tell you that the Dallas Cowboys are America's team. The diehard of the diehard Steelers fans, if they own reality, they will tell you that the Dallas Cowboys are America's team. What is that? What are you talking about, Marcus? We like money in the U.S. We like that a lot. And big money usually makes people crazy about whatever you're doing. We like fame. Who's more famous than the Dallas Cowboys, Max? We like fame from another standpoint. The individuals that have come through. Right? We still got guys from the Dallas Cowboys making $100,000, $200,000 a year in marketing that wasn't even great players.
We have very little time. I want to rebut that.
The brand of the Dallas Cowboys makes them America's team.
I want to rebut
because
that.
It represents America more than any other football team.
No,
that's the bottom line.
That's part of America. The other part is hard work and winning. Hard work and winning. Who has won the most Super Bowl championships? Till the Patriots tied them. And the Patriots was tied just to Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, right? But the Steelers have done it throughout their history. The Pittsburgh Steelers. Who represents the blue-collar workers between the Cowboys and the Steelers? The Steelers. Who represents doing it the right way between the Cowboys and the Steelers? The Steelers. Do you know why the Cowboys are known as America's team? Because a snake oil salesman named Tex Schramm came up with it as a marketing device. And suckers bought it all over the country. Oh, yeah, America's team. I like the way that sounds. That's what the Cowboys are about. The Cowboys, since Jerry Jones, last 25 years, quarter century, Cowboys, all sizzle, no steak. All sizzle, no steak. The Pittsburgh Steelers have won 2 Super Bowls, been to 3 in the Roethlisberger era alone. In the Roethlisberger era alone, they've been to 2-1, been to 3-1-2. They got steak. They don't have the sizzle of the Cowboys, but they got the goods.
Max, don't bring that up, because if you're going to equate winning to being America's team, if you're going to equate winning to America's team, we're not talking about the Steelers either. I think we're talking about
the Packers, to tell you the truth. I think the Packers are America's team.
The reality is Dallas is America's team, and it doesn't have everything to do with winning. They've won enough. They haven't won a Super Bowl, but they've won enough to stay relevant. And when we hang up this show today, and when we come on for the rest of the weeks during football season, I want you to count the number of times that we lead with the Cowboys as opposed to the Steelers.
Charlie, I want to just point out that I have played the same number of seasons for the Cowboys as I've played for the Steelers, which makes me more credible.
I mean, Mark, as it is, you are biased, I will have to say. But, you do a quick Google search and ask who is America's team. Wikipedia will tell you, first and foremost, it is the Cowboys. So, look, Wikipedia only speaks facts, as we know.
Max know that.
Okay, guys, we got to wrap it there. We have a break to get to, but we still have a whole lot more to come on the show. Like, which NFC North team do we expect to make a run? Fellas, time now for camp takes. According to Caesars Sportsbook, Green Bay is the favorite to win their 3rd consecutive division title at -150, ahead of Minnesota at +250 and Chicago at +475. And the Lions have the lowest odds in the division at 25-1, tied for the 2nd longest odds by any team to win their division. So let's now welcome in former NFL wide receiver who is making his debut here on First Take. Mr. Harry Douglas, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm excited. Let's get this show on the road.
HD.
Yep. Let's get it on the road. In fact, we're going to start with you, Harry. So which team can challenge the Packers in the NFC North?
Well, for me, I think it's the Chicago Bears, and here's why. You look at the defense that they have a top 11 defense last year. When you have defensive linemen such as Akeem Hicks, you have Khalil Mack, you have Robert Quinn, but not only that, you have two linebackers that can run sideline to sideline and get downhill, Trevathan and Roquan Smith. To pair that along with a solid secondary, I think, and Swagoo, you know this, when you have a defense that can stop a prolific offense, you have a chance to win all kind of games. Now, I'll tell you this, when it comes to the offensive side of the ball, some things that they got to correct. They got to get that offensive line correct, right? They got to get right and on the same page when it comes to protections. And quite frankly, I think if Justin Fields is their quarterback, because Swagoo, you said earlier that Nick Foles was running for his life. Now you have a dual threat quarterback back there that can probably get away from some of that pressure and make some plays for this offense. And they're prolific. When you look at their skill positions, right, they have two solid tight ends. You have Cole Kmet, you have Jimmy Graham. Look at the wide receiver positions. You have a number one guy, Allen Robinson, and then you have Moody. Not to mention now, you got one of the fastest receivers in football in Marquise Goodwin. And, hey, two solid running backs. I think Justin Fields can take this team to compete against the Packers in the North.
Go ahead, Marcus.
Oh, yeah. Well, welcome to the debut, HD, because we got to kill you right now, bro. It's the Minnesota Vikings. Are you kidding me? Like, this defense, one, was ravaged with injury. And you talk about D lineman. Danielle Hunter is coming back. I think he's the most underrated pass rusher in the NFL when we start talking about that. The moves that have been made in Minnesota have, and I said this, Max, you know, I said this a couple of weeks ago. Like, I'm not sure that the Green Bay Packers just run away with this division based on what transpired in Minnesota this offseason. Mike Zimmer acknowledged that his defense was bad. And that's something that I'm not going to attach to Mike Zimmer more than 1 year, right? The injury bug got him, but Mike Zimmer is not going to feel the bad defense this year for the Minnesota Vikings. And then when we get to the other side, see, here's the thing, Harry. Here's your initiation. All of that stuff you just talked about with Chicago, that's hope. That's hoping all of that stuff works out. You know what I know? I know I know Dalvin Cook is a top 5 back in the league. I know Justin Jefferson is one of the more prolific young wide receivers in the league. I know Adam Thielen is an elite level performer in the NFL. I expect and know, based on what I watched last year, that Irv Smith, the tight end, is going to have a big year. I know that everybody kills Kirk Cousins, but everybody doesn't look at what Kirk Cousins does on a year in, year out basis. And that's ball out of his mind, to be honest with you. We get on Kirk about certain moments, but he did go to New Orleans and win a playoff game with a last-second throw with a last possession drive to Rudolph to win that playoff game. The Minnesota Vikings, even with Aaron Rodgers, even without all of this turmoil that went on this offseason, were going to be a contender in this division. That is the challenge to the Green Bay Packers, and that is what's going to happen. It's going to come down to those two teams.
Hold on, Harry, because you're both wrong. It's not Minnesota. Because I don't trust Kirk Cousins in big games and in the playoffs. I don't trust.
I know this.
Harry, it's not Chicago because Chicago's had the defense you've been describing for a couple of years now. They can't get it done because they don't have the right guy under center. Andy Dalton's not that guy. Justin Fields probably will be. I'm high on Justin Fields. I thought he was a steal in the draft. No rookie quarterback, first-year starter, has ever been to a Super Bowl, right? There's a reason for that. I know we're just talking about the division. You're going to have to win a lot of games to push these Packers, who won't be the underdogs till Week 9 at Kansas City. They got an outstanding secondary. They got a good enough front seven. They got skills positions, and Aaron freaking Rodgers, reigning MVP. No, it's not the Lions either, Marcus.
Don't do this, Max.
Are you crazy? You think I'm going to say it's Detroit? Of course it's not. The answer is there is no threat to the Packers in the NFC North. None of these teams are going to threaten the Packers. Aaron Rodgers is going to be on a mission this year. They went to 2 consecutive NFC championship games. They're going to be better than they were last year.
Now, listen, Marcus, I got to address you. My question for you, Marcus, do you believe in Kirk Cousins? Do you believe in Kirk Cousins to be that guy to take that team to a Super Bowl? You do?
I believe Kirk Cousins is good enough to play and win his division. We ain't talking about the Super Bowl, Harry. We talking about the team that's going to challenge the Packers in the North. That's what we talking about.
Okay, so
the Minnesota
let me ask you
Vikings
this.
are the best suited team to challenge them.
Let me ask you this. In the last 3 years, when Kirk Cousins came to the Minnesota Vikings, how many times have they been to the playoffs?
Once.
How many times has the Chicago Bears been to the playoffs? Twice.
I think twice, if I'm not mistaken.
With bad quarterback play. So if Justin Fields is under center and he gives this offense a boost, what make you think that the Chicago Bears wouldn't challenge the Green Bay Packers versus the Minnesota Vikings? I don't understand that. Help me understand that part.
Because Harry, I have no earthly idea how the quarterbacks are going to play for the Chicago Bears. I do know how Kirk Cousins is going to play based on what I've watched him do. And you know what Kirk Cousins has done? He's played well enough to keep his team in games and in contention. Like, I know it's easy. It is so easy to point at Kirk Cousins and say, Kirk Cousins is the issue. That's a lie. The issue for the Minnesota Vikings last year was defense. They bring in Patrick Peterson. They get Harrison back. They get Danielle Hunter back off of injury. They add to that defensive line. It's defense for the Minnesota Vikings, and they will be better. Offensively, we've all acknowledged that Minnesota offensively can play with most people in the league. You're hoping that the Chicago Bears have success. I know the Vikings will have success.
Yeah, C above C with that one. Boy, your voice went way up high on that one. Lie detector.
Because I got to emphasize to my man.
Look, I'm going to help you both out. If you built a time machine and put Justin Fields 2 years in the future and then put him on the Vikings, now you can challenge the Packers. These teams ain't challenging no Packers. Look at the Packers schedule. This dude, bro. They're going to wind up with maybe 3 losses this year, something like that. Aaron Rodgers is going to be on a mission.
I don't believe in the Packers defense, Max. I don't believe in the Packers defense like that.
Well, it may not be top third of the league, but it's going to be close. Like, their front seven is solid. Their secondary is excellent. Alexander might be the best dude in the business. He's one of them. That's not like that's going to be at worst the middle of the pack defense.
Who has a better defense? Does the Bears have a better defense, or does the Packers have a better defense?
Bears. That's what they hang their hat on. Their defense.
You know this. If you have a solid defense, you have a chance. Right or wrong?
Sure, but the Bears have had the same chance the last 3 years. And if you think a rookie quarterback is going to be the difference, I like Justin Fields a lot. There's not going to be a rookie quarterback you put on the Bears and suddenly they're as good as the Packers. They got Aaron Rodgers had the best season of his career last year. He's the reigning MVP.
I want the team with the improved defense and the offense that I know can go toe-to-toe with majority of the offense in the NFL.
And you, Marcus, with Kirk Cousins. Look,
that's the Minnesota Vikings.
Kirk Cousins,
at some point, Kirk Cousins is going to mess it up.
Oh, my God, bro.
Yeah, just because you choked a lot in the past doesn't mean you're always going to choke. That's true. You're right about that. Kirk Cousins has shown signs of turning that around. He finally won a primetime game. Then he won a playoff game. But, my man, this dude has been in the league a long time. Why do you think it took so long for him, so many bites at the apple, to win in primetime, to win in the playoff? Does he have some issues with that? Is the whole less than the sum of it starts with Cousins? Yeah. But Aaron Rodgers is the opposite of that.
Aaron Rodgers. I'm sorry, I have to go with Max on this one. And no one cares about any of the rest of the division. Aaron Rodgers is the man. Last year, he posted an 84.3 QBR. That is the third highest ever in history since ESPN started tracking since 2006.
And they got a good enough defense.
The only two above him, Tom Brady and my guy Peyton Manning. So look, it's all about Aaron Rodgers this season. Harry, you're sticking with us. Let's keep it moving, guys.
If we're not answering the question, then we could have just went past this. I'm sorry. Max don't want to answer the question.
The debate is over. Guys, we're moving. We're moving on. Calvin Ridley gets a chance to shine this season with Julio now on the Titans. We're asking former NFL wideout Mr. Harry Douglas which of their quarterbacks he trusts more, Matty Ice or Matt Tannehill.
The BUCS are a more well-balanced team, and Brady is still great.
You know who I am? I'm Patrick Mahomes. This is the best in the world right now.
Is it possible to win a Super Bowl with a quarterback who doesn't want to be there?
I wouldn't be here if I wasn't 100%.
22-year-old wideout is the Falcons' career leader in catches and yards, and is second to Roddy White in touchdown receptions. A.J. Brown, Derrick Henry, and now Julio should make life very nice for quarterback Ryan Tannehill. And get this, like Julio Jones, we have got a guy right here who also played for both the Titans and also the Falcons alongside Matt Ryan. So in his first take debut, I'm going to say it again, former NFL wideout Harry Douglas. Marcus Spears also here with us. But Max, we're going to start with you here because it is the battle of the Ryans. So which quarterback do you trust more to win a big game, Matt Ryan or Ryan Tannehill?
Ryan Tannehill. There are a bunch of reasons for this. First of all, Tannehill's the guy who just got Matt Ryan's old guy, and you look at that's the best tandem. That's the best 1-2, and who's the one, who's the two in the NFL right now that Tannehill's throwing the ball to, and he's got a great back. And he's been among the better quarterbacks the last several years. He's a guy trending in the opposite direction of Matt Ryan, who earned a reputation for choking in big moments. Like, let's be honest about that, including in the Super Bowl, and you can blame the coach all you want. And on top of that, who's the more mobile guy? Like, there are a million reasons. Here's the other thing about Tannehill. And look, do I believe in Tannehill the way I believe in, Patrick Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers? No. Or a talent like Justin Herbert who's ascending? No. Would I take him over Josh Allen? I wouldn't. There are guys I take before Tannehill. He's a good quarterback. And people conflate efficiency with dink and dunk passing. Tannehill can also throw it down the field. He's accurate down the field. The answer's Tannehill.
Now, Max, I have to go ahead and let you know that you're wrong, 100% wrong. I'm going to go with Matt Ryan. So I'm going to start off by saying this.
The guy he played with.
I'm going to start off by saying this, Max. I'm going to let you know this. Who revitalized Ryan Tannehill's career in the NFL? Do you know his name? If you don't, I'm going to tell you. Arthur Smith, the offensive coordinator that he had. Who called the plays for Ryan Tannehill while he was in Tennessee? Arthur Smith. Let me guess, Max. Where is Arthur Smith now? The head coach in Atlanta, and is going to be calling the plays for Matt Ryan. Now, I will tell you this. At what point in Ryan Tannehill's career has he been asked to lead a team with his arm? There's never been a time, because I can remember a time in the AFC Championship game against the Kansas City Chiefs, them going down, and Ryan Tannehill with his arm could not lead this team back to victory so they could make it to the Super Bowl. So I'm going to go with Matt Ryan 100% because I've seen Matt Ryan, I play with Matt Ryan, and I know what he's capable of. Listen, now, Max, if you want to say Derrick Henry, I understand. If you want to say Derrick Henry, because if you look at all the big games that Ryan Tannehill has played in the playoffs, he threw for 72 yards, 88 yards, 209 yards, 165 yards. So in my eyes, that tells me Derrick Henry is the player that you should be trusted in the big game and not Ryan Tannehill.
Go ahead, Marcus.
I ain't gonna lie, Max. I ain't gonna lie. That's a hell of an argument by Harry.
I thought so
That's
too.
That's a hell of an argument when you start thinking about Matt Ryan being leading. But I'm with you, Max. It's Ryan Tannehill. Because we're talking about today. We're talking about the level these guys are playing at right now. And right now, I trust Ryan Tannehill in the big game. And yes, Derrick Henry brings a lot of attention, and he does a lot of things that I believe takes away, obviously, as it should, takes away from Ryan Tannehill really being able to leave true imprints on the game. But the one thing you mentioned, Max, where I agree, is that right now in today's NFL, I'm going to trust the guy that can get himself out of trouble a little bit more. And that's Ryan Tannehill for me. I'm going to trust the guy that has Julio and AJ. I'm going to trust the fact that having those guys gives Ryan Tannehill the edge as well. And when we talk about playing at a high level right now, Ryan Tannehill is playing as well as Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan throws for a lot of yards every year. Matt Ryan has had Julio Jones every year of his career down there. He's got Calvin Ridley. Now he has Kyle Pitts. He's going to have success from an offensive standpoint. But if I'm in one game, and I think that both of these quarterbacks are playing at a similar level, I'm going to go with the more athletic guy. And I'm going to go with the guy with better weapons. And that's Ryan Tannehill right now for the Tennessee Titans.
First of all, I thought, Harry, your argument was very good, too. And the Arthur Smith thing especially is interesting to me. Because the last time Matt Ryan had a coach in the offensive coordinator in Shanahan that really made the best use of Julio Jones, right? That was when he was MVP and he had an MVP and they were in the Super Bowl. But I will remind you, they collapsed in the Super Bowl. And that wasn't the first time. As a people who watch the Falcons go, damn, Matt Ryan, can you close the deal? Now we're talking about him in a more advanced stage of his career with fewer weapons. So does a coach make up the difference on Tannehill? Where I also agree with you, Tannehill is not the kind of guy you think he's going to get it done as a thrower of the football the way you think of Matt Ryan that way. But when it comes down to the game on the line, do I trust Matt Ryan right now more than I trust Tannehill, especially given their situations? I don't. I trust Tannehill more. There are guys I trust more than Tannehill. Matt Ryan is not one of them.
Max, you obviously haven't followed Matt Ryan's career, because I was a part of numerous of occasions where we have been down and we had to start inside the 10-yard line to go put our team in field goal range and win a game. Go down and score a touchdown and win the game. Now, you cannot ignore the fact that Arthur Smith is not there in Tennessee with Ryan Tannehill. He revitalized his career. That same guy, if we're talking about right now, Marcus, is in Atlanta. It's going to be calling the plays for the Atlanta Falcons. So that's why I get an edge to Matt Ryan.
Yeah, Marcus.
Well, I just don't have the capacity right now for Matt Ryan in this part of his career for Arthur Smith to make that significant of a difference where he becomes a Super Bowl quarterback. Look, the Falcons ain't going to the Super Bowl. That's number one. The Falcons got to fight to make the playoffs. That's number two. And when we think about Ryan Tannehill, all of the points that Max and I brought up for me, and we talking about right now, I ain't going over the career. I didn't bring up anything about what Ryan Tannehill has done over his career. His career has been up and down until he got to the point that where he was in Tennessee with a complimentary run game. Smith. And to your point, Arthur Smith. If the type with Arthur Smith, I'm about to get there, with the type of mind that I believe Vrabel has and what Vrabel has seen as a head coach with the Titans, it ain't no way in hell he about to put Ryan Tannehill in a different scheme. So if he executing Arthur Smith's scheme, and I think the guy that they brought in, I can't think of his name right now, and that sucks for me as an analyst. I think the guy that they brought in to be the OC is same philosophy, terminology that Arthur Smith brought to the Tennessee Titans. On top of that, the biggest point, athleticism. Athleticism right now, Harry, is the name of the game. When we looking at quarterback, even with Brady, Brady won the Super Bowl. The defense won the Super Bowl, and they were superior athletes, and they did their thing, and Brady was surrounded, and we're talking a different conversation with Tom Brady. Right now, between Matt Ryan and Ryan Tannehill,
for most of Matt Ryan's career, as the game got late, he got worse than he was in the beginning. Now, he was really good, so he was still a competent NFL quarterback even late in the game. But, Harry, the truth is, he was more like Falcons fans know it. In the fourth quarter, you trusted him less than in the first quarter.
Todd Downing is the name.
All right, well, these two teams squaring off week one of the preseason. And bottom line here, Harry, I respect the loyalty, all right? We like a loyal guy here on First Take. But we got to get to break. But both of you sticking with us, so let's keep it moving. It's a great argument
for Matt Ryan, man.
No doubt. Pull the rabbit out of hat with that one, Harry.
And now Sean Payton has to decide who takes the reins. Will it be Jameis Winston or Taysom Hill? Who do the guys say? Stay tuned.
About Charlie, my bad.
Well, listen. After hearing the laughter, Marcus, I have to start with you here. Who should be QB1? Should it be Jameis or Taysom?
It should be the guy that just got whooped by them bags we just watched. Listen, man, this that's funny to me. That is funny to me.
Keep rolling that video,
Jameis
please.
Winston right there. But listen, this is my thing, and I'm not sure what Jameis will be when he's back as a starter. I do believe he'll be the starter for the New Orleans Saints, but I know because of what's going on with Michael Thomas and because of what they lack from an offensive standpoint on the outside, I think the Saints are better suited to have Taysom in his original role. If you put him under center, you limit what you do from an offensive standpoint, flexibility-wise. And I would much prefer have him and Alvin Kamara be an issue for a defense as opposed to having him at quarterback and you trying to create some semblance of a QB run game. And let me say this as well. You put Taysom Hill as quarterback at the starting quarterback for the Saints, and you asking him to consistently throw the football, that's not where he's better suited at. If you're trying to make this a similar offense to what the Baltimore Ravens are, then I could see an argument for that if you want to implement that type of scheme. But that ain't what Sean Payton doing. Sean Payton wants an offense that can dink and dunk and be explosive when need be. And I think Jameis is better suited in order to be the quarterback. But more importantly, with this argument about QB1, for me, is that you need, because of Michael Thomas, Taysom Hill to be a Swiss Army knife as opposed to being the starting quarterback and you just lining him up in one spot every down.
Believe it or not, I think Taysom Hill should be the starting quarterback, at least to start the season. Sean Payton has been talking for a long time now about his belief in Taysom Hill, and he'll tell you that on the record and off the record. Sean Payton believes he can be a quarterback in the league. And even if you're like, come on, coach, really? You're not just, there's no ulterior motive. He believes it. And I think Taysom Hill, for so long, I've had arguments with NFL players, current and especially past players, who, when Taysom Hill, and this is going back a couple years, well, he's a gadget player. You're kind of burning a roster spot on Taysom Hill. And sometimes guys who are really versatile, you can kind of get hit with that rep, right? A utility guy. He's a jack of all trades, a master of none. Why? Because he can throw, he can really run, and he can catch. Therefore, he's a gadget player that you don't value. Now, we haven't seen a huge sample size of him as quarterback. And obviously, you're right, Marcus, they're going to have to look more like the Baltimore Ravens than they have. This is not a guy who's going to throw for 350 yards. You don't figure he's going to use his legs. But I don't see why he can't do that. You know, if you look at his, like, does he, you talk about dink and dunk, yes. Does he have explosive plays in his arm? Probably not. No, certainly not as much as Jameis, but he probably not going to turn the ball over as much as Jameis in either. And as a dual threat quarterback, which Jameis is not, he can give you different looks. I'm all for him at least starting the season. Neither one of these guys is going to strike fear into the NFL, but at least starting the season with Taysom Hill.
Max, I have to disagree with you, and I'm going to have to go with Marcus. Listen, when you look at this New Orleans Saints football team, Michael Thomas is one of their best players, right? He's going to benefit more from Jameis Winston. When you look last year when Taysom Hill came into that role, you want to know who diminished a little bit? Alvin Kamara. The New Orleans Saints cannot afford for Alvin Kamara to diminish because of Taysom Hill being your quarterback. I tell you one thing that's a known fact, and Swagger, you know this being a defensive player. It's hard as hell being a defensive coordinator trying to put together a defensive plan when you know you have a QB1 in Jameis Winston, but then you have a Swiss Army knife in Taysom Hill that you have to prepare for because the multiple different roles he has to play in. Now he can play on special teams and be the punt protector like you can. So if you want to go for it on 4th and 1 and 4th and 2, now you can. Taysom Hill is not going to be in those roles if he's your QB1 because you don't want to risk him getting hurt. So for me, it's a no-brainer. You have to go with Jameis Winston. And I know he was a part of the 30-30 club, but I think Jameis really benefited from sitting behind Drew Brees and understanding. And I always use this analogy right here, guys.
Absolutely.
And I use it when I talk about Tom Brady and Teddy Bridgewater. It's like when you go to the bank. You never get tired of making deposits. So if you got to hit that check down 2 or 3 times and throw that football away, continue to make those little deposits because you're in the pluses and never the minuses.
This is a legitimate question because I think that is a good argument. And it's not like either of these guys, if I was a Saints fan, I'd be psyched to be my quarterback heading into the season. And if Jameis can just cut down on the interceptions and he could be, instead of 30-30, 25 and 15 even, that'd be a big improvement. But
anything's an improvement.
Yeah, right. But this is a legitimate question. Why do you guys think Sean Payton has consistently said Taysom Hill both on and off the record? And he's a guy who's seen these guys up close. Why do you think Coach keeps saying Taysom Hill?
Max,
maybe
listen,
Coach maybe he had too many drinks.
Sorry, Harry?
Look, to answer your question,
It's funnier than the Winston video.
Harry say he had too many drinks. Listen, let me take this one. This is a part of keeping, this is coaching, Max. This is a part of keeping Taysom Hill engaged. This is a part of giving him an opportunity to see if he can play QB. And he had that opportunity last year. I think the biggest, and it's going to sound terrible, and it's the biggest indictment on Taysom Hill, okay, when it comes to talking about quarterback. Remember, we all know Taysom Hill is an elite football player in the way that he's being used. But when the biggest indictment on Taysom Hill is that he did not come into this season the clear-cut starter after being the only guy to play last year when Drew Brees was out, right? We all understand how this QB thing works. If you're not QB1 and you've had an opportunity to show that you could be against a guy that didn't play, I think Jameis threw for 72 total yards last year. Taysom started 4 games, I believe, or 5, and then you come into camp and the coach is like, look, I love Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill can play quarterback, but I ain't about to name him QB1, even though he's the guy that I went with last season. And when Teddy Bridgewater, who Sean Payton thought was a more competent quarterback, which he was, is the reason he started those 5 games.
Yes, but we're not talking about Bridgewater.
To Taysom Hill.
I agree. If we're talking about Teddy Bridgewater, we're not talking about him.
Max, follow my point. All right. Taysom Hill last year started 4 games when Drew Brees was out.
And completed over 70% of his passes. Yeah.
Max, he's not the clear QB1. Why do you think that is?
Because he's not a great quarterback. I mean, like, this is not a mystery. The question is, can he do what Sean Payton needs him to do?
But here's another point I want both of you guys to look at. At some point, the wrong decision will have a psyche on the locker room, right? If you choose the wrong guy, you send Taysom Hill out there to be the QB1, and everybody on this New Orleans Saints team know that Jameis Winston should be QB1. How's the locker room gonna feel about that? It's not gonna be good. So I think for the Saints, for the better of the Saints, they need to go with Jameis Winston because Taysom Hill is just a gadget guy.
I'll say this: Jameis Winston had a starting job. Lost his starting job, was a backup, and I can turn that Taysom Hill argument right around on you guys. Why is it that Jameis Winston brought in as a backup? Jameis Winston, former number 1 overall pick, brought in as a backup, still isn't the clear front runner to have the job. Like the argument you make about Taysom Hill, who played 4 games, who didn't set the world on fire, but wasn't the worst thing in the world either. Mm-hmm. Why isn't Jameis coming as a presumptive favorite?
Because we didn't see Jameis Winston play an extended period of time. This question would be easy to answer if we saw Jameis take the role that Taysom took with Drew Brees. Obviously, Sean Payton said it. He told Taysom that you would have this opportunity if it presented itself. And he was true to his word. He gave Taysom an opportunity, and as much as you bring up a 70% winning completion percentage and all of that, the Saints lost to the damn Philadelphia Eagles with Jalen Hurts in his first start, and they played the damn Denver Broncos with a dude that played wide receiver that we didn't know who they quarterback.
They played Arizona tough too. Jalen Hurts was pretty good against Arizona too. Like, let's be honest.
And the way he played. Come on, man.
And Max, I'll tell you this from a wide receiver standpoint, Max.
It would be solved last year.
Max, from a wide receiver standpoint, I want Jameis Winston throwing me the football. I don't want no damn Taysom Hill throwing me the football. Because there's more chances that he going to be running, and he's taking away stats from me as a wide receiver.
I hear you. Secondary and the other team wants Jameis throwing the football too.
You know, but in the 4 games that he did start in Brees' absence, he averaged 174.5 yards, which was the 3rd highest man in the league during that period of time. So, we can hate on either one, but I think for just 1 second, let's roll that video one more time. Just because. Why not? I want to get the reaction one more time.
You petty, Charlie.
Oh my goodness, the poor guy cannot catch a break. All right, let's keep it rolling.
All you young fellas at home, that is not the way to go through the bags.
No, it's not.
The NFL.
And unfortunately, there are cameras everywhere now. So, all right, and enough fun we've had. Let's keep it moving because we still have more to come on First Take. Which former Crimson Tide quarterback do the guys trust the most this season? Newcomer Mac Jones, Tua, or Jalen Hurts? Plus, everybody knows Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes are the favorites to get